What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods coming at y'all with another Week 4 preview, man. And we have a huge, absolutely huge SEC East matchup going down. Prime time on ESPN. Kickoff is 6 p.m. Central Time. The Florida Gators welcoming the Tennessee Volunteers to the Swamp. And the Gators are a 19-point favorite right now. And both of these teams are looking to, Florida looking to bounce back from a loss to Alabama, Tennessee looking to avenge the loss 2 weeks ago against Pitt. Both of these teams have not yet won an SEC game. This will be Tennessee's SEC opener. They're looking to kick it off with a huge upset this weekend, while Florida is looking to just really as much as Florida lost that game, Florida's looking to continue that positive momentum that they had in the second half, in which they were probably a missed extra point away from taking Alabama into overtime. But, man, the storylines are endless for this matchup, man. I know I talk about the Gators' 2-point loss to Alabama, but the hype around Gainesville couldn't be any higher with Anthony Richardson, with this running attack, with the defense playing better in the second half against Alabama. Dan Mullen has really formed a true SEC contender, and a lot of people, including myself, I have to admit, counted the Gators out as SEC East contenders. And, as much hype as Georgia's getting, this Florida team is legit, and Florida is going to give Georgia a run for their money later this year. It has to start this weekend, though, against the Volunteers. And Anthony Richardson's availability is still a question as one of the storylines coming in. How much could we see Richardson? Is he even going to see the field at all? He got, Mullen said that he was available last week, but ended up not seeing any action. But that's kind of what's surrounding the Gators coming into this matchup. But for storylines for the Volunteers, they come into this game 2-1. They suffered a 7-point loss to Pitt in week 2, but they got 2 other wins, man, over some overmatched teams, and they look great in both of those games. The storylines for Tennessee, though, are all about the quarterback spot. Who is going to be QB1 this weekend? Hendon Hooker led the Volunteers last week for an injured Joe Milton, who led the team the first 2 weeks of the season. But many experts wonder who's the better option moving forward. We're going to get into that. And also, the Vols are looking to kick off their SEC run with a huge top 12 upset and really kick off the Josh Heupel era in a big way. But looking at this series, man, the Gators have dominated recent history, winning 15 of the last 16 games, with the one Vols win coming in 2016. So the Gators lead the series 30-20 and are currently on a 4-game win streak against the Vols. So that's kind of some background of the history of this game. But the keys to victory for these teams, man, Florida is so obvious. The key for the Florida Gators is to run the ball and I mean, just keep running it and keep running it and keep running it. If you don't have to throw, the less you have to throw, the better for the Gators. So they got the number 2 rushing attack in the country right now, averaging over 335 yards per game. Also have the number 2 ranked in the country yards per carry average, with over 7.5 yards per carry on the ground. They rely on a committee of ball carriers to lead this offense. And really and truly, they have not really run into a defense that has been able to defend the versatility of this attack between the 2 quarterbacks, between the 3 or 4 running back system they got down there in Gainesville. They keep defenses off balance and where they run the ball, how they run the ball, and what it looks like. And it works flawlessly for Dan Mullen. Now, Malik Davis and Damian Pierce are the top 2 backs. Davis with over 200 rushing yards this year, averaging almost 7 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns, while Pierce has been the red zone guy with 5 rushing touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing, still averaging over 6 yards per carry. Naquan Wright really came out of nowhere for me last week, man. I really wasn't expecting him to be as much of a factor. He was explosive, and he offers a dynamic third option to this Gators rushing attack. Now, the real question about what we're going to see from the Gators and how they're going to run the ball really relies on if Anthony Richardson is available this weekend, or if Emory Jones is going to have to carry this team in another important SEC matchup. Now, Richardson has been absolutely electric, guys. Man, AR-15 is trending down there in Gainesville. They want to see this kid on the field this weekend if possible. He was held out last week due to injury, even though he was doing bat flips before the games. Dan Mullen was cautious with him, probably trying to save him for later this season. Now, he's already this is just in limited action, guys. He has not started a game yet. He's thrown for almost 200 yards with 2 passing touchdowns, almost 300 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns, and that's just in like mop-up action. He grades out at a 95.6 offensive grade by Pro Football Focus, which is one of the highest in the entire country. And he is a game changer if he can suit up for the Gators this weekend in Gainesville. But now, Emory Jones, I got to give him a little bit of credit, has been dynamic on the ground, but he's left a lot to be desired through the air, to say the least. And that's why it makes the running game even more important for the Gators. He's only completed about 60% of his passes for 459 through the air, 5 interceptions, though, to 2 touchdowns, but he's been dynamic on the ground with over 200 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. The key to Jones has to be to improve his decision-making this weekend, because if Tennessee, for some reason, can slow up the run, Jones has to be able to move this offense down the field consistently and win this game. If he starts turning the ball over and giving Tennessee great field position, give them extra possessions, it really could hurt not only the offensive rhythm for the Gators, but it really could spark a Vols upset this weekend. So that's something to watch. But looking at the keys for Tennessee, it's really hard to pinpoint one because we don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. Hendon Hooker did an outstanding job last weekend for an injured Milton, but not much is known about which quarterback the Vols are going to roll with, which means the key for me is to keep this offense balanced, establish a run game to help both quarterbacks out, and let them find their rhythm spot, that just get them comfortable in the offense this weekend. I'll give y'all my opinion. I think Hooker gives this team their best chance to pull the upset, because I think Milton is too inconsistent in terms of his accuracy and deep ball to lead this team to win. But on the flip side, Hooker is a little bit more explosive with his legs, but he's also the more experienced option, having all that time at Virginia Tech, leading them in big games for the Hokies. Milton only completed 51% of his passes before he went down. Hooker completed over 70% of his passes, had 5 passing touchdowns, of almost 400 yards passing, while Milton only got 200. So the key for me here, guys, I'm going to be honest with y'all, is that Hooker has won big games like this at Virginia Tech. Milton underperformed greatly in his short time at Michigan, and I just think that Hooker can be a difference maker because he will not be shaken by the moment, and he knows what it's like to win a game like this in an environment like this. And that's why I think Hooker, at least just for this game, would be a slightly better option for the Vols. But I know that the offense is really fast-paced. It has to be explosive, but they cannot allow Florida to dominate the time of possession either. If they get worn down on defense, Florida is just going to consistently get to the end zone, chew the clock, and you're not going to have enough depth to compete. So the number one thing is for Tyon Evans and Jabari Small to be the top 2 running backs for this team, to go produce, be able to establish drives, chew some clock, and really get some of these drives going, because you cannot let this Gators offense just stay on the field all game and just wear your defense down, because that is a recipe for an absolute collapse for this Tennessee team. Now, Evans and Small both have over 100 yards rushing, both averaging about 5 yards per carry and 2 rushing touchdowns. The Gators stormed back last weekend, guys, because they shut down Alabama's running game and put the game in an awkward spot for Bryce Young and this offense. Tennessee cannot let Hooker or Milton be in that position late in this game. They're going to have to rely on this run game to be balanced and allow Hooker and or Milton to have some high percentage throws and some matchup and some, I guess, mismatches on the outside against this Florida secondary. Now, Velus Jones, Javonte Payton, Jacob Warren have to go make plays in terms of pass catchers for this Tennessee offense. They got to go out there, get some separation, catch those 50-50 balls and just be playmakers on the outside, because Hooker and Milton are going to need help in a matchup of this magnitude. Now, the matchup to watch is absolutely, to me, going to be this Florida offensive line, which played outstanding football in the second half last week against this Tennessee front seven, who is going to be tasked with trying to stop one of the most explosive run games in the country. Now, the front seven for the Vols have to have one of their best games of the season, because if you can slow down the run and put this game on Emory Jones, you're going to have a great chance to win, and then you're going to be able to pin your ears back and get after him on third and longs, second and longs, things like that. You're going to put him in very uncomfortable situations. Now, the Volunteers defensive line, Matthew Butler, by far one of the best linemen on this team. He's an interior lineman and is the highest graded run defender on this team right this second. But they also need Byron Young, Elijah Simmons, Jaquane Blakely to step up this weekend. And the Vols have had a rotating door at D-line due to some injuries. At least through the first 3 weeks of the season, they're going to have to try to find some consistency this weekend to stop this Florida rushing attack. Because if you allow Florida, like I said, to chew the clock and run the ball, they're going to run away with this one. Now, Juwan Mitchell and Jeremy Banks are going to probably be the guys at linebacker. Mitchell is questionable right now for injury, but his absence would be a gigantic loss for this Volunteers defense. Now, Aaron Beasley would be expected to step up instead of Mitchell if he misses his second straight game, while Solon Page III had a huge interception return last week, could see some time as a rotational piece if Mitchell missed another game. Now, the Vols have been stout against the run all season. They've only allowed 54 yards per game on the ground, but this will be their biggest test by far of the season. And a key for them is to at least try to slow down this running attack of the Gators. Now, the offensive line for the Gators has played outstanding, in my opinion, especially compared to a lot of the reports that were coming out of fall camp about how bad they were playing. Richardson and Jones have only been sacked twice, only had 13 pressures over their first 3 games, while paving the way for the second best rushing attack in the country. If this Gators O-line can continue to win the line of scrimmage, it could be a long day for the Volunteers. Now, control the clock, wear down the front seven, and do what you do, which is run the ball down the opposing team's throat, is the whole thing for this matchup to work in favor for Florida. They just have to do what they do best. Try to limit as much pressure as you could put on Emory Jones. He cannot go out there and have to win this game with his arm. You should have the advantage in the trenches. Utilize that and run the ball. Keep fresh bodies in it running back, and let Richardson and or Jones do what they do outside the pocket. Read options, design runs, whatever that may be. I trust Dan Mullen as a play caller to put his players, especially quarterbacks, in the best positions to succeed. Now, in terms of official predictions, I do think there are a lot of questions, especially early. I think Tennessee has to run the ball early because we still don't know what quarterback's coming in, and even if Milton's healthy, he might be rusty after missing like a week and a half. So for me, I think Florida has too much talent in terms of running back, and both quarterbacks I think are playmakers. So for me, I have Florida winning this one, guys. 34-21 over the Volunteers. I personally think Milton and Hooker are going to just make one too many mistakes in the swamp. You get the home field advantage. I think Richardson's going to play, and that's going to create a bunch of explosive plays every time he's in the game. I just think Florida pulls away late. 34-21 Gators over Volunteers this weekend for me in the swamp. I think it's a huge game in the SEC East, and Florida can make a big statement by getting a big SEC win to really, jolt them into the season. I know they're looking ahead to that huge game against Georgia in the coming weeks. So the Gators 34, Tennessee 21. So guys, comment your score predictions below, smash that subscribe button, and also give a big thumbs up to this video. I promise you won't find any better college football content anywhere on YouTube. The most in-depth previews right here, and the most college football content on YouTube every single day, man. Daily college football content right here on the Bluebloods. But guys, we got one more week 4 preview coming this afternoon. So tune in for that and check out our week 4 content playlist for all our previews that we have dropped this week. But guys, for right now, the Blue Bloods are out.